So we are recording. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Sovereign Life Team call. We're going to be doing a training with, the man, the myth, the legend, Mike DiMuccio. I don't know what he has planned for us tonight, but this is going to be an opportunity to get any questions you have answered as well. And then, we can transition into whatever you have in store for us, Theo.
Okay, well, I have a library of information, so it depends on who's on the call and who's asking. So rather than me just throw stuff at you, first of all, let me welcome the new members, or the new soon-to-be members, Maya and Galen on the call. Welcome. And Megan, we've had a brief chance to connect, but I think maybe what I could do is just be open to some questions. Where you are at in the business, something that Sophia said earlier, I think is really important. One of the things that I know is there is a learning curve in anything. I mean, whatever it is that you're involved in. Alicia, in nursing, what's the learning curve? Well, first of all, it's 4 years of university or however long it is. And then there's actually on the job, right? What would you say is the learning curve for your vocation?
I mean, everything. Like from
Yeah,
the
it's like
start, from your first
it's on the go,
placement.
right?
Yeah, like even just, learning how to talk to people, learning how to be comforting, learning your hands-on skills, knowing everything that you study in school is relevant. It's not like a regular
So let me take
degree.
you back to your first day. Did it feel that way, or did you feel
Absolutely.
awkward? What did you feel?
Yeah. My first day of placement, I was so scared to talk to my patients, mind you, who were not alert or oriented. They had dementia, and I was still so nervous to talk to them. I was shaking.
So let's just put this into context. Here you are, the person your patients really need to talk to and really want to talk to, if they can talk, because you're their service provider, you're their care provider, you're the person, you're the first line of defense, the first line of everything to them. It's like, first person you need to get a hold of is your nurse. So you have a very attentive audience. I mean, I don't think you can get any more attentive than that. Yet you are scared, and you're the person who's there, that they're it's like they're waiting for you, they're asking for you, and you're scared to be there for them. Because what are you afraid of?
Everything. At the time, I was
what are you afraid of?
I was scared to mess up.
Well, where did that come from? You didn't even start and you're already afraid to mess up. Had you messed up before?
In nursing?
Yeah.
I mean, not hands-on, because I had no experience.
Right. And yet here you are concocting some idea in your head that's causing you to behave a certain way. So you haven't even done anything, but you're already behaving a certain way based on something you programmed into your head, based on something you imagined. Fear, when we're afraid, when we're fearful of something or worrying about something, we are imagining a future we don't want. And our imagination is the single most powerful aspect of us being a human being. Nothing, and I sincerely mean nothing, is more powerful than your imagination. And so here you are using that imagination without thinking about it in a certain way, because you've probably, like everybody on this call, has been patterned that way. All our lives, we have been fearful of making a mistake, because where did we get our education about what happens when we make mistakes? How did we learn that there was a consequence by making a mistake, right? What was that, Moya?
Our parents, like.
Okay, so our first experience of that is probably our parents, right? How did you get treated if you made a quote unquote mistake? And so nobody wants to feel that way. So now we become fearful or frightful of making a mistake, regardless of how ridiculous the mistake was when you made it at that age, that at this point in time would be meaningless to you. But at that moment in time, it was everything to you. just like your first day on the job as a nurse. It's everything. And yet now, if you look back, it was meaningless, pointless to even worry. So if you're going to start a business, if you're going to start this business or any business, if you're going to break from something you're already doing that you've already become comfortable with, you're going to experience invariably fear. It is a condition you will experience. It's rare that somebody doesn't feel like it's rare that I meet somebody who's absolutely fearless. I'm sure at some point in time, they were fearful of what it is they're doing. So, or beginning what they're doing. So if that's just the way it is, then we've got to use our mind in a capacity that's higher than the baseline of fear. Fear is a reactive mind. It's not a proactive mind. It's not a mind that's actually creating the reality that we want. It's a mind that's allowing the circumstances of our life, of our situation, to control what we're going to create, starting with how we feel, and then how we feel turns into how we act. And then many times we find out that it was all for naught. So rather than doing that, just consider then, fear is going to be a natural reaction to the unknown. But if you have a tool in your toolbox to deal with it, then you can overcome it sooner than later and not be stopped by it, because you will experience a learning curve. And this learning curve in this business is actually remarkably short. It really is. When people ask me, Mike, I think even the girls asked me when they started, what is the thing that's going to be the most difficult? What's the greatest challenge? And I'm usually asked that by people, what's the greatest challenge? And of course, it depends on, is this day one on the job, or, is this, 30 years and day one on the job? What's the greatest challenge to me today versus what was the greatest challenge day one? The greatest challenge I find for people in any business of any kind is dealing with what other people think of them. This preoccupation of what other people think of me. So that preoccupation is what creates the fear, because you don't know how they're going to respond or how they're going to react to something you do or say. And that fear then gets conjured up in your imagination, and you start playing the scenario of what is it? What are they going to say? If they don't like what I'm saying, they're going to not like me. Are they going to whatever? We start getting uncomfortable before we even did anything. Now, go ahead and try and do something when you're feeling that way. It's pretty counterproductive. So just know this, that no matter what you're going to do in life, you're always going to be challenged by this whenever you're encountering something new. But the tool in your toolbox to overcome that is to imagine what it would be like if you couldn't say the wrong thing to the wrong person, or the right thing to the right person, if there was just no way of making a mistake. In other words, you will do what you do and there will be a result, and that result is not good and it's not bad. It's just a result. It's simply a result. Now, what we want to get better at is producing the kind of results that are in alignment with what we want in life, what we want as an outcome. So in this business, the learning curve is maybe 3 months. And what it is that you're going to have to overcome, the biggest thing that you're going to have to overcome, is what other people think of you. The fear of thinking about what other people think of you. And so that fear, let's say, for instance, you have somebody in mind that you want to introduce this concept to. Well, the first thing you think about when you think of that person is how exciting is it going to be to work with that person? How amazing is it going to be for them to join our team? Or is it, gosh, I don't know, what should I say? I don't know what to say. The fear of not saying the right thing is the first thing that comes to mind, rather than the joy of knowing you've just introduced and partnered with somebody who you're going to spend a great deal of time with and enjoy life with. It's so weird, but that's just the way we're programmed. We need to overcome that. And that's going to be the skill that you're going to develop. And I can honestly say, and even Sophia will admit, she's a little bit stale around the edges with respect to that presentation she just did. So was it a mistake? No, it just wasn't as good as her best, but it was still pretty good. But it wasn't a mistake. It's something we can improve on. there's a title that we have in NICAN in our incentives program, and it's something that I want to encourage you all to go for. It's called Team Kaizen. It's the incentive that's an annual incentive where the trip that you win a trip, and it's absolutely a crazy, amazing life experience. You will never forget your Team Kaizen experience, especially since you're hanging out with all the people who qualified around the world of NICAN, who also qualify for that trip. So you're hanging out with the best of the best where that year is concerned, and you make lifelong friends. The next trip is to Japan, the next qualifier. So Team Kaizen, the word Kaizen is a Japanese word, and it means always seeking improvement, forever improving. So that's all we can ever hope for and expect for ourselves if we're really on track and on purpose, is just get better at it. Don't be critical of yourself. I made a mistake. I could have done better, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, we can always do better. That's Kaizen, always seeking improvement. And in fact, the purpose of NICAN that Sophia mentioned earlier as well in her presentation, the idea, or maybe it was Savannah, I'm not sure, it was one of you that said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That actually came from Earl Nightingale, then passed on to my mentor, Bob Proctor, who then passed it on to me, who subsequently passed it on to them. But what a great definition of success. It's the seeking of improvement in each of those 5 pillars of health. That's the daily thing that we challenge ourselves with. That is a success. It's not having achieved it. It's not having reached a destination, because that means you're not seeking, ever seeking improvement. In other words, you're a really on purpose person and living life to the max, to the fullest, when you feel in your heart you're doing the best you can and improving in every area of your life. That's worthy of your life. It's not about being conservative and tiptoeing through the tulips, hoping to make it safely through to death. No, we don't want to tiptoe and hope that we make it safely through to death. We want to be alive and present and on purpose. So the business of NICAN, like I said, you're going to learn what you're going to learn in about 3 months, and you're going to have a skill set that you can take around the world and apply in pretty much every situation. Because the skill set in NICAN that you learn is how to communicate, which is not what am I saying? It's about what are you hearing that I'm saying? It's that extra step of listening to understand. Did I understand you correctly? Did you understand me correctly? Are we really communicating here? And believe it or not, this may seem pretty straightforward and basic, but 99% of every one of your conversations in life right now are so two-dimensional, nobody really tells you the truth. They always tell you what they think you want to hear. Not so much what they're really thinking or what they're really feeling, but what they think you might want to hear, because they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to trip any wires. And so here we are in a business of people. Yes, we have products. Yes, we have a compensation plan, but that's not the business. Those are just the tools that make life better. It's the business of people. And the business of people is communication, interaction, helping each other achieve our purpose, helping each other have a better experience in life. That's it. And if you like the idea of being in a business where this is the kind of education, this is the kind of training that we focus on, where we talk about the mind and we talk about how to better equip yourself to deal with things conscientiously, rather than be a reactive person, a proactive person, how to use your higher faculties like will and imagination to direct you so that you're not simply being bounced around by circumstances around you, then you're going to become a formidable leader in your world. And that's what this team, Sovereign Life, is all about. The name itself says it. What does it mean to be a sovereign individual? It means to be someone who is self-sustained, self-empowered, self-actualized, self-acknowledged. And in order for you to be able to be that way, you have to be able to see it first. but you won't do that if you don't see it in others. So it's something of beauty when you can see and recognize. I think the word is namaste, which I really love that word. I have a whole, you guys can get a whole education about that, but I think that really says it all. It's when you can recognize that light, that divine spark in everyone. And if you can do that, then you recognize it in yourself, because what you see in others is something that you allow to see in yourself. So the growth that I'm talking about, although the 3-month learning curve is just about how to say things and do things in a way that create results that are desirable, the real business of Nikken is the humans being more business, and it's Kaizen, never ending. So I don't know if you have any questions for me. I know you guys are on a short leash on the time-wise line, but let me just, oh, that's it. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Beautiful.
Well, that was great. Thank you for speaking on that, Papa. I loved what you said. And I also think it's really interesting and unique, because one thing we have talked about is, we're a group, like we're majority female, and one thing that Nikken has really needed is some feminine leadership, some feminine energy, being more flowy and more focused on the nurturing aspects. But what we've seen in our business is also that it's amazing that we have, the like feminine leaders, but we also see so much value in having, the directness of the masculine, and having you come in and balance us in that way. And even just hearing you speak, like from anyone who heard the first conversation we had to this conversation, it's like a different approach to the same thing. And I like that we can have both of those in our business and learn in that way. So I'd love to open the floor. Like, does anyone have any questions, comments?
I would like to know, what is the humans being more you were talking about?
This is
that a training?
the philosophy. If you were going to encapsulate the motto of Nikken, the philosophy of the company from its inception, it's humans being more. The idea of achieving a life in balance, a life of purpose, a life of balance, constantly striving towards that. That's humans being more. So
Okay.
it's essentially our motto. So you'll see it in Nikken literature, you'll see it in the promotion materials and so forth. You'll see it in our training. We have a training course called Humans Being More Training.
Okay, and can you take that course? Like,
yes,
is that
of course.
an option on, do you do that through the website?
Yes,
or?
it's an online course right now.
Okay.
Unfortunately, its real version is 2 days. It's a 2-day workshop. And believe me when I tell you, if there's an opportunity for that to happen and you can get on a plane and get to wherever city they're doing it, do it. It was the first personal development course I ever experienced in Nikken. And I can tell you, I just was amazed that there was a company out there that even cared enough about me to offer the training in hindsight. It was absolutely amazing. I've been many times since, of course, more than 10. And each time you're sort of peeling layers away and you're opening up new levels of awareness. And because you've also moved forward in life and in the business, you gain different perspectives. But the real benefit is, as a business builder, to be able to offer people something that helps them get on that program, get on that process of self-awareness, self-actualization, becoming aware to the inner child and things like that, setting goals and creating purpose. If we're not goal setting, we're not living on purpose. If we're not striving towards something, if we're not creating that, then what we are is reacting to the stressors that are impacting us versus creating our own stressor. There's negative stress, which is the stuff that's imposed on you. And then there's positive stress, the stuff that you create in terms of goals and aspirations, how do you want to be living your life? And if you're somebody who really desires your freedom, this is the business for you. This is a business for people who really want to be free. By the way, speaking of what you were saying earlier, Savannah, you want to hear Susan Carver. She's going to be one of the keynote speakers, or the keynote speaker, of Master Day this Saturday. She is a powerhouse. In fact, I would argue probably the biggest powerhouse female in Nikken. She's absolutely amazing.
She's really great.
And
What time is
she's
she speaking at?
actually, I don't know. I don't have the agenda, but
I
I
have
can
it.
assure you, she's a person you don't want to miss. She's all that. She's got the mind, she's got the heart, she's got the yin, she's got the yang, she's got it all. And she's got a
Someone
great
record it
business.
for me, please.
Pardon me?
May someone record it for me, please? I won't be able to make it. I'll be at work.
I think it is recorded, isn't it?
Usually they
Yeah, but they
record,
don't give
they
me-
record the events, and I'm not sure what sequence, what segments they release.
Wait,
Usually
yeah.
a keynote.
It's
is-
showing me that Susan is she's with 2 other people and she's only for 20 minutes.
Okay, well, then that means she's hosting a segment.
But yeah, she's towards the end.
Yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense. You'll learn, she's so,
I can
you'll
tell you
never
guys what
get,
the schedule is.
okay, go ahead.
So starts with welcoming, what's our vision 2025, getting that back organized. And Luis, the CEO, is going to speak. And then it's going to be me speaking about building a business on social media. And then there's going to be the top achievers, new silvers for the first quarter. So all recognition. And then I don't know what there's something else going on. I don't know what that is. And then there's something around hydration, breathing clean air. So Dave Balzer, I believe he's really in charge of like the products. And
So let me give you a heads up, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, where that air presentation is going to lead. So you're going to probably want that information because it's going to lead to something next month.
So
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Don't say anything.
okay. So we have more recognition. And then we have someone's Dr. Paul Gabias. I don't know who he is, but building.
Let me tell you about Dr. Paul Gabias. He's a
good.
professor. He's a university professor out of the
Is
university.
he the psychology professor?
Correct. And he's
Okay.
blind. So here's a platinum, a fellow who has built a Nikken business. He's blind. He's a psychology professor. And so, yeah, it just goes to show you it's a business that anybody can do, because what is the business? People and
And then we
communication.
have
Anything more?
some stories. So I think we're gonna hear some wellness stories, some testimonies. And then there's a raffle. Didn't even know that. You can win something. How does those work? Do they just pick whoever's on the call?
Yeah, there's some system that they have that does the selecting.
Cool. And then there's Susan Carver, keys to building your international business.
Okay,
And-
yeah, that makes sense. She
Yeah,
has a
and
great
then-
international business, so.
So, is this available to anybody, like even people
Yes.
that aren't part of the business?
Yes, you can register. The link, I sent you guys the registration link. You just get a Zoom link. As soon as you register your name and email, it sends
So
you a
anybody,
link to
so
join.
even like guests listening tonight, they could
Yes.
join after day if they'd like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, hey, listen, if you were going to invest the next 4, 5, 10, 30 years of your life, or considered it, by the way, I was not considering that when I joined. I'll tell you my story in a second, but if you're considering really making an investment in something, you want to know as much as you can about it. And the best way to know about it is to know the people. Who are these people? Can you relate? Do you get a sense about them, a vibe? When I saw that first Nikken video in my friend's living room, I got a vibe. I got a feeling that these people were legit. Their stories, their testimonies, I just knew they weren't paid for. They weren't that, fake. It was legit. And so when I got involved in Nikken, I just was looking to make an extra $3,000 to $5,000 a month. If I could do that, by the way, I would have made on a part-time basis what I was then making, and some, as an electrician working full-time, even though I wasn't actually supposed to be an electrician. So I was just looking to get out of what I was doing so I could get in to what I wanted to do, which was music and, finish my album and so forth. So when I got into Nikken, it wasn't with a 30-year career ahead of me planned. No, it was just, can I get out of being an electrician and into something that made more sense and can make a difference, while I then could pursue my interest in music. I did not expect that it would become so relevant, so important, and so quick that it would literally take over. And here we are 30 years later. But boy, I'll
That's
tell you one thing,
Yeah.
in hindsight, there's a lot of people who say, in hindsight, I would have done this, that, and the other different. I tell you, I can't imagine not living the way I live, not being who I am, and becoming what I've become as a consequence of every experience I've had in this journey.
Mhm.
Because again, if freedom is something you value, then there's nothing, I don't know of any business that can offer this kind of freedom other than winning the lottery. And that's not a business. It's not being of service.
I do know from an outside perspective, like growing up, I do remember that there was a few times where you considered, well, I mean, you weren't considering leaving Nikan, but you were offered a lot of different positions. And I remember, like at the time, I didn't even understand like the stake or what you really meant when you were deciding on this. But I remember like my dad was offered a few different positions in different companies for like large amounts of money. And I remember that whatever, like you always said that like none of them really matched up to the purpose that like Nikan has. And that's why you stayed in it. And I remember when we first started our business, we spoke to Luis, who is the CEO, and a similar thing. He was offered like a blank check. Like he was offered a lot of money to, be the head of a different business. And same thing he came back to is, well, that other business doesn't have this purpose and this fulfilling feeling that Nikan really has. And so it always goes back to, there's so many different ways to build an income for yourself, to build a life for yourself, but which one resonates with you and your purpose? And that's what you really need to ask yourself.
Yeah, I can tell you, by the way, his birthday's the same as mine, February 28th. So we're both Pisces. He's a little younger than me though. I can tell you what I think it is. I don't think there's anything more fulfilling or more satisfying than seeing and being a part of, even if it's distantly a part of, the success of others. I honestly don't think there's levels of leadership. There's books written about this fifth quality leader, or I don't know, there's just different levels of leadership. But I think the highest level of leadership is when your success is derived from mentally, physically, emotionally from the success of others. And I know at first when you're getting started, that's not what you're really thinking about. You're really thinking about, getting a leg up, getting, something going for yourself. The sooner you can transition to that person who wants to help members of your team get a leg up, that's when you really start the journey of leadership. And that, like I said, that can happen in your first 3 months. I know these girls have team members on their team that have gone silver, helping others become leaders in Nikan. That's the game. And it's a fun one, and it's a very fulfilling one. I know you got to wrap up, so I'll just shut up now.
That was great. Thank you so much for taking the time. Every training call is different. We really just go with the flow of it, but I think that was great for, those listening, and also to kind of get a feel of the business and from somebody who's really knows it in and out. Thanks for everyone for being here. I honestly really enjoyed this call tonight. I think it went really well. Thank you to our guests for joining. And have a great night, everyone.
Bye,
See you
guys.
on Master Day.
Thank you for the rest of the night.
Yeah. Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.